On the morning of August 2479 AD, Pompeii felt ordinary. The streets were already warm beneath the Italian sun. Bakers slid bread from stone ovens. Merchants arranged olives, wine, and garum along wooden stalls. Children ran through narrow alleys between painted walls covered in political slogans. And crude graffiti in the distance, Mount Vesuvius stood quiet. It had not erupted in living memory. To the people of Pompeii, it was simply part of the landscape, a green mountain with vineyards climbing its slopes. Farmers worked its soil. Travelers crossed its shadow without fear. The city was prosperous. Its amphitheater hosted games. Its bathhouses steamed with conversation. Wealthy villas displayed frescoes of gods and gardens. Slaves moved silently through courtyards carrying water. There had been tremors in recent years. Earthquakes in 60 to AD had damaged buildings. But reconstruction was underway. Life had returned to rhythm. No one looked at the mountain that morning and imagined it would erase them. By midday, a cloud would rise that would change everything. But at dawn, Pompeii was alive, and it did not yet know it was about to disappear. It began shortly after midday. Some noticed a distant rumble, first deep, irregular, like thunder rolling beneath the earth. Others saw it before they heard it, a column rising above Mount Vesuvius, swelling into the sky with unnatural speed. It climbed higher and higher, forming a vast plume that spread outward at the top like a stone pine tree, dark at its core and edged with ash. Pliny the Younger, watching from across the Bay of Naples, would later describe the shape in careful detail. At first, it seemed almost beautiful, strange, yes, but not immediately catastrophic. Then the ash began to fall, light gray at first, like soft snow. It dusted rooftops and courtyards. People stepped outside to look upward, shielding their eyes. The sky dimmed slightly, but there was still no panic. Earthquakes were familiar in the region. Perhaps this would pass, but the plume did not shrink. It thickened. By afternoon, pumice stones began raining down, light, porous rocks, but heavy enough to injure. Roofs rattled under the growing weight. The air filled with grit that scratched throats and eyes. Some citizens gathered belongings. Others ran to the harbor. Many hesitated. They had seen earthquakes before. They had never seen the sky turn into stone. And still, no one yet understood what was truly happening above them. The mountain was no longer silent. It was tearing itself open. By late afternoon, the sky above Pompeii no longer resembled day. Ash thickened into a relentless storm. Pumice stones fell faster, bouncing off streets, piling against doors, accumulating on rooftops until beams began to groan under the weight. Some families retreated indoors, believing walls would protect them. Others fled toward the city gates, wrapping cloth around their faces to filter the choking air. Breathing became difficult. The sun disappeared behind a dense canopy of ash, turning daylight into a strange twilight. Lanterns were lit. The air smelled of sulfur and burning minerals. Tremors shook the ground in waves, cracking already weakened buildings. Inside homes, parents pressed cushions over children's heads to shield them from falling debris. In the streets, bodies collided in confusion. Horses panicked. Shouts were swallowed by the roar of the eruption. As evening approached, darkness became absolute. It was not the darkness of night. It was heavier, thicker, a darkness filled with static gas that settled in hair, in lungs, in every exposed surface. Lightning flashed inside the volcanic cloud above, illuminating rooftops in violent bursts. Some prayed, some screamed, some froze. Those who remained inside their homes began to suffocate slowly as pumice piled higher outside, blocking exits and collapsing ceilings. Pompeii was no longer a city under ash. It was a city being buried alive. And the most lethal phase had not yet arrived. Hours passed in darkness, and the ash did not stop. By the middle of the night, Pompeii was trapped beneath a rising landscape of pumice. Streets narrowed into trenches. Doors could no longer open. Roofs collapsed under weight. Those still alive were forced into a choice: stay and suffocate, or flee into a storm of stone. Many ran. They stumbled through alleys they could barely see, guided by memory, by walls, by the distant sound of others moving. Some reached the open spaces near the forum. Others pushed toward the gates, believing the countryside would be safer. But the eruption was changing. Above Vesuvius, the towering column that had sustained the ash fall began to destabilize. As the eruption continued, the plume grew too heavy to hold itself aloft. Portions of it collapsed back down the mountain. What came next was not ash. It was a pyroclastic surgeon avalanche of superheated gas, ash, and debris moving at terrifying speed. It did not behave like a normal fire. It flowed like a liquid wall, racing downhill through valleys and across plains. The first surges may have missed parts of Pompeii, striking nearby areas first, but they were warnings written in heat and wind. By dawn, the deadliest surge would reach the city, and when it did, it would not bury Pompeii. It would silence it. Just before dawn, the mountain unleashed its deadliest force. The eruptive column collapsed completely, sending a massive pyroclastic surge racing toward the city. Unlike the slow fall of ash or pumice, this was sudden and unstoppable, a cloud of superheated gas, fine ash, and volcanic debris moving at extraordinary speed. It swept over walls, through streets, across rooftops already weakened by collapse. There was no time to run. Temperatures within the surge may have exceeded 300 degrees Celsius. Air itself became lethal. Those caught outside fell instantly, overwhelmed by heat and toxic gases. Inside homes, doors and windows offered no protection. The surge penetrated every opening, filling rooms in seconds. Bodies were frozen in final gestures, arms raised to shield faces, hands reaching for loved ones. Figures collapsed mid-stride. They did not die slowly. They died where they stood. The ash that followed sealed them in place, layer upon layer, preserving streets, shops, kitchens, frescoes, entire moments suspended in time. Pompeii did not burn to the ground like a city conquered in war. It was entombed. By mid-morning, silence replaced the chaos. No market voices. No wagon wheels. No bells. Only a buried city beneath meters of volcanic ash, invisible from the outside world. Within days, survivors elsewhere spoke of catastrophe. Within decades, memory faded. Within centuries, the exact location was forgotten. Pompeii had not just been destroyed, it had vanished from history. In the years that followed, the eruption became a story told by survivors in neighboring towns. They spoke of darkness at midday, of ash falling like snow, of a mountain that had exploded into the sky. Pliny the Younger recorded his account in letters, preserving a description that would outlive the empire itself. But even those testimonies could not protect the city from forgetting. Ash and hardened volcanic deposits reshaped the coastline. The once busy harbor silted over. Roads were abandoned. Vegetation reclaimed the land. New settlements rose nearby, unaware of what lay beneath their feet. Pompeii did not remain a visible ruin. It disappeared over generations. The exact location blurred into rumor. Travelers walked across farmland not knowing they were crossing rooftops, buried beneath meters of solidified ash. Farmers plowed fields above bedrooms, kitchens, courtyards frozen in time. The Roman Empire continued. Wars were fought. Emperors rose and fell. Christianity spread. Rome itself would decline. And still, beneath a hardened crust of volcanic debris, Pompeii waited. It was not looted in the usual way. It was sealed. Time passed in silence above it, while below, an entire city remained intact. Its walls, its paintings, its streets preserved in darkness. A place that had once been full of sound and movement had become a void on the map, not destroyed in memory, but erased. For more than 15 centuries, Pompeii remained buried. Then, in the late 16th century, something unusual happened. In 1599, during the construction of an underground water channel near the modern town of Tor Annunziata, workers digging through hardened volcanic layers struck painted walls. Frescoes emerged from the soil, bright colors, human figures, architectural scenes. It was unmistakably Roman. But no one understood what they had found. The discovery was recorded briefly, then ignored. The tunnel was completed. The paintings were reburied. The land above returned to quiet. It would not be until 1748, under the rule of King Charles of Bourbon, that systematic excavations began. Initially, the work was driven less by archaeology and more by treasure hunting. Workers dug shafts into the ash, searching for statues, marble, valuables. What they uncovered was something far greater. Entire rooms stood intact. Amphorae rested on shelves. Mosaics lined floors as if awaiting footsteps. Streets appeared beneath the earth exactly as they had been left. And then came the most haunting discovery of all. As voids were found in hardened ash, empty spaces where bodies had decomposed. Plaster was poured into them. When the ash was chipped away, forms emerged. Men, women, children, preserved in their final positions. Pompeii had not been erased. It had been waiting. Asterisk. When archaeologists began pouring plaster into the hollow spaces left in the hardened ash, they did not expect what would emerge. The voids were shaped like bodies. As the plaster filled the cavities and hardened, the surrounding ash was carefully chipped away. What appeared was not bone alone, but posture, expression, movement frozen in time. A man curled on his side, knees drawn toward his chest. A mother shielding a child beneath her arms. A figure with hands pressed over his mouth. A dog twisted against its chain, mid-struggle. These were not statues carved by artists. They were the final moments of real people, preserved by catastrophe that the tale was haunting. Folds of clothing, sandals still strapped to feet, the impression of hair. Even the tension in muscle seemed visible in the hardened forms. For the first time in centuries, Pompeii was no longer a legend. It was intimate. Walking through the excavated streets, visitors could see bakeries with bread still in ovens, political graffiti still legible on walls, brothels with painted advertisements, wine jars sealed in storerooms. The city did not feel like an abstract ruin. It felt interrupted. Pompeii revealed not only how it died, but how it lived. Its markets, its humor, its politics, its ordinary routines, and that is what made it unforgettable. The lost city had not vanished completely. It had been preserved. In its last breath, to walk through Pompeii today is to move through a city paused. Mid-sentence. Stone streets still bear the grooves of cartwheels. Stepping stones rise above what were once wet, crowded roads. Public fountains stand at corners where citizens once gathered with clay jugs. On the walls, campaign slogans remain visible, urging neighbors to vote for local officials long turned to dust. Pompeii was not a grand imperial capital. It was a working city. Fishermen mended nets near the harbor. Bakers began before sunrise, grinding grain imported from across the Mediterranean. Slaves carried water from fountains to villas decorated with elaborate frescoes of gods, gardens, and distant landscapes. The wealthy dined on imported delicacies while laborers crowded taverns serving wine and lentils. The amphitheater hosted gladiatorial games. Bathhouses echoed with laughter and politics. Graffiti revealed jokes, insults, declarations of love. One message simply read, "I wonder, O wall, that you have not fallen." Life here was vibrant, imperfect, human, and that is what makes its disappearance so unsettling. Pompeii was not abandoned due to decline. It was thriving. The eruption did not erase a dying city. It erased a living one, a place full of routine, argument, ambition, and hope. All of it ended in a single day. Mount Vesuvius did not disappear after 79 AD. It remained. After the eruption, the mountain's profile changed. The once gentle summit was replaced by a shattered crater, ash hardened into stone. Vegetation slowly returned to its slopes. From a distance, it looked quiet again, but it was not dead. Vesuvius has erupted many times since Pompeii's destruction, most violently in 1631, and most recently in 1940 during the Second World War. The volcano remains active, rising above one of the most densely populated regions in Italy today. Hundreds of thousands of people live within its shadow. When visitors stand among the ruins of Pompeii, they often turn toward the mountain. It looms in the background of photographs, deceptively calm. The same volcano that buried an entire city still breathes beneath the surface. The people of Pompeii did not know they lived beside a threat. They saw vineyards and fertile soil. They saw prosperity. They did not see pressure. Building deep below. The lesson is not only about ancient Rome. It is about proximity to danger disguised as normalcy. Pompeii teaches that catastrophe can exist quietly within the familiar. A mountain that provides fertile land can also erase it, and history reminds us that silence does not mean safety. Pompeii is not only a story of destruction. It is a story of preservation. Most ancient cities are known through fragments, broken columns, scattered inscriptions, foundations worn by time. Pompeii is different. The ash sealed it in a way no human hand could have planned. Walls remained standing. Rooms stayed furnished. Even food survived in carbonized form. We know what Romans ate here. We know how they decorated their bedrooms. We know the layout of their kitchens, the structure of their bakeries, the prices advertised on tavern walls. We know the names of local politicians and the rivalries between gladiators. The disaster created an accidental archive. It captured daily life not in marble monuments, but in ordinary spaces. The modest home beside the grand villa, the workshop beside the temple, the graffiti complaining about poor wine. Pompeii allows historians to step beyond emperors and generals and into the lives of ordinary citizens, artisans, slaves, merchants, children. The ash did not only bury tragedy. It froze reality. Because of that preservation, the lost city became one of the most important archaeological sites in the world. reshaping our understanding of Roman society. What was meant to be a race became a window. A city that vanished from history became one of the clearest voices. Speaking from it, Pompeii did not vanish forever. It vanished long enough to become legend. For nearly 16 centuries, it lay beneath hardened ash while empires rose and fell above it. Kings ruled, wars were fought, orders shifted, and beneath quiet farmland, a Roman city remained intact, waiting in darkness. When it was uncovered, the world did not simply rediscover ruins. It rediscovered people. Pompeii returned not as myth, but as memory preserved in stone. Its streets allow us to walk where citizens once hurried. Its houses reveal private lives. Its plaster casts confront us with the final human moment: fear, protection, instinct. It is rare in history to see time interrupted so completely. Pompeii is not powerful because it was destroyed. It is powerful because it was paused. The lost city did not vanish from history entirely. It slipped beneath it. And when it rose again, it reminded us of something unsettling and timeless. Civilizations feel permanent while they exist, until they are not. If you want more historical moments told from inside the experience where you walk the streets, hear the voices, and witness the turning point, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and tell us in the comments which lost city or forgotten event we should uncover next. History is full of places that disappeared. Some are still waiting to be found.